Hey everyone, today I'm joined by Rich Matukaitis. Rich is a partnerships lead at Rebuy, the e-commerce personalization platform for Shopify brands. And he spent 4 years at Shopify before joining Rebuy, and he got to start as a business owner himself, building an online booking system for hairdressers. Now, I wanted to have Rich on because he works with hundreds of agencies and thousands of brands through Rebuy's partner program, which gives him a front row seat to which agencies are actually pulling ahead with AI and which ones are getting left behind chasing shortcuts. In this episode, we discuss why the agencies winning with AI are using it to add capacity, not cut headcount, how to stay human and keep your critical thinking sharp when everyone has access to the same tools, why trust, not claims of being the best, is becoming the real currency for agencies, and more. No one was asking for another community, but I've made one anyway. So what's different? The dynamic agency community is designed around access rather than content. Access to peers who've done it before. Access to experts who've designed solutions. Access to resources that have been battle tested. And right now, the price for founding members is only $97 a year. Join today so your agency has immediate access to everything you need to grow. You can join at dynamicagency.community. And now, Rich Matukaitis. It's easier than ever to start an agency, but it's only getting harder to stand out and keep it alive. Join me as we explore the strategies agencies are using today to secure a better tomorrow. This is Agency Forward. Which agencies are surviving AI and why?
Yeah, I mean, this I think is more than just it's more than specifically just an agency question. I think that when AI kind of entered the chat, it was more of like, kind of like a cost reduction sort of tactic. Like, who can we replace with this? How can we lean out what we're spending? But I think what I'm noticing now is the companies that are doing this really well have actually turned it more into a capacity benefit. So it's not so much how can we get rid of people, it's like how can we get them to output more in their day. And I think that if you start taking some of the menial tasks that oftentimes would occupy so much of your bandwidth in a day and replace that with something that can be automated or a framework that you can repeat over and over again, this gives you the time to go back into what people are paying you for in the first place, that intellectual property, that individual nuance that kind of separates you. So yeah, I would say the ones that are leveraging it for increased bandwidth versus trying to cut corners.
I felt that probably right from the start when everyone started making cuts. It was like, we harp on this idea that AI gives you like 5x the capacity per person, but we're willing to fire 4 of our 5-person team. So now we just have the same team that we did before. But if we could have those 5 now with 5x, like we're at 25% operating capacity. So just like numbers wise, I feel like we could have done the math on this and seen this coming.
Well, and also, I mean, once we start getting into the point where, we've fed all of these LLMs, all of our data, their pricing structures are not going to stay this way forever. They're very expensive to maintain. Yeah. So the cost per person, all of a sudden, Joey, the intern, is going to look like a much better option if we teach him how to use these tools versus replacing the complete output of a human with these machines. Right. I mean, also while killing the planet, but that's a whole other story.
Yeah, no, Fable 5 is like the perfect example of that. Like it's out right now. You can use it for free, essentially, like with your subscription plan in Claude. But starting next Wednesday, the price goes up and it becomes the most expensive model out there. And so it's like, how many people are actually going to be using the model when it's like, it's just costing you even more now to use this thing?
Yeah. And I think another thing worth noting is, in the way that teams are still adopting this, we've got people that are being encouraged from the top down to leverage these tools, but who's actually overseeing the usage of them, right? If we've got 15 people all working in Claude trying to accomplish the same thing, is that really more effective? So I think what we'll start to see is specialized roles. I mean, we're already seeing it, but specialized roles who are actually in charge of implementing these systems and solutions so that, you're not burning through your tokens. You're not, kind of wasting that perceived bandwidth increase on trying to figure out how all these things work and, where that source of truth kind of lives within an organization.
Yeah, I think so. I can't remember exactly which company. I believe it was Ford. Someone's going to tell me I'm wrong in the comments, I'm sure. But they actually went back to hiring more of their, like, they're calling them graybeard developers because they actually want people supervising and doing more of that hard work because they've realized their code is actually getting worse in all the things that they're developing for their vehicles.
Well, yeah, I mean, the quality check is everything. I mean, I definitely am a proponent of, leveraging technology and things like that. But like right now, we're just kind of like shooting into a barrel and hoping that it works, right? So
Yep.
I think we'll see it start to streamline and get a little bit more intentional. But right now, I think everybody's in that like shiny object phase of just like, look what I can do and see how far they can go without having the resources or the bandwidth or the knowledge to be able to actually fact check what's being spit out of these things, right?
Right. So how do you like personally stay human while leaning on AI?
Yeah, well, I mean, again, like nothing's going to be able to replace that kind of like human touch, right? I think what I leverage it for is not necessarily to think for me. I use it to complete, admin tasks. I use it to do things that allow me to then inject myself into it. Whereas I feel like I can see it, like, especially on LinkedIn, it's just like, not to say I don't use it, but it's just the content on there now. I can tell who's using which AI tools they're using just based on the language. So I think, again, because we have to realize that these tools are mainstream, everybody in their house now knows what ChatGPT is, more or less. So it's like if you're starting to give results or you're starting to produce output that is identifiable by AI, you're going to lose your credibility, or it's going to be like, why am I paying you in the first place? So I think, staying sharp, staying nuanced in terms of like your own personal experience, not just a broader collective answer to a question or a problem with a merchant or whatever that looks like. I think you still have to be able to keep it human, to be able to distinguish yourself away. Even at this point, I find I have to use a certain language because like, oh, you're very articulate. This must be an LLM output. I'm like, no, I just read books. Like, so there's this whole thing of like, where now I'm arguing with people for what, So I think just making sure that you don't lose your critical thinking skills is going to be the biggest challenge in the coming years for sure.
Right. I think there's the whole argument too that if you're going to use AI to do all of these things, why can't the client just use AI to do all of those things? Because I think a lot of them already have the belief that they can. Like they're willing to give ChatGPT to an intern and they're just like, do my marketing strategy. And like they imagine that it's going to work. And so, the keeping the human element here and like the critical thinking that comes with that, I think is paramount.
Well, and it's like I've realized also like the craft is in the prompt, right? So I think that being able to successfully prompt an LLM is night and day difference in terms of what you're going to get as an output. But mind you, if you're all looking for a solution to the same problem, you're all speaking to the same brain, you're all going to get the same results. I was speaking to an agency actually who was hiring, and I forget what the question was, but it was for a marketing role. And essentially, they received, I think, about 15 different cover letters that all had the exact same copy. So it's like you're hiring from a marketing position and you're using this to solve this. It's like, at that point, I don't know. I think people are getting a little bit too comfortable too quickly, but it's because of how easy it's become to open up your browser, type something in, and you're like, wow, this is very impressive. But it's like, how many other thousands of people are typing that same question and getting the same answer? Yep. So I'm just like waiting for that to crash and, we'll have to go back to using our brains.
Yep. Yeah. I was reading an article about how the people are using AI to create their applications, and then all the companies are using AI to sort through the application. So now no one's getting hired. And what a perfect little circle we've made for ourselves.
Well, and it's like, okay, at the end of the day, like I don't frown on people using it, but I think, again, if you're just taking the bare bones of what it spits out and not adding any or injecting anything into it, that's where I kind of have an issue with it. So, to the kind of, in terms of like agencies that I see just doing really well, I feel like, again, when we talk about things like bandwidth, if you need AI to do like your first pass research, for example, when you're studying a client, that often would take so much time, or market research. These are all things that that information lives. That information is just like static information that doesn't really require much nuance or context. So to use it for things like that, for competitive audits, like battle cards almost, like that, I can see it saving you a ton of time, where before you'd have to go and scour and do all of that. Great. But again, when your strategy is being output from like a marketing agent that you built, it's like, oh, that's where it gets a little dicey for me. And you can definitely tell. I mean, even with the websites that I see some agencies hosting themselves on, it's like everybody knows what a Claude HTML output page looks like. So I don't see there being an issue with that. But if you're a creative agency and you're doing design and build and creative strategy and branding, I don't want to see that template. Like, I'm sorry. It's just kind of like, I don't know. It's the same thing as having a bad website when you're doing like CRO audits. It's like if your own website is not great, then I'm going to be a little bit reluctant to want to work with you in the first place.
Right. Yeah, there are definitely ways. Like one of my clients pulls, so he's a web shop. He's figured out how to pull everything from a site's branding, including some of their imagery, to create like a style for them. But he's still putting his own tweaks on everything and making it look good. It's just he doesn't have to spend 3 hours combing through their website to pull all the right pieces. It's now 30 minutes. He has that and then can go spend the other 2.5 hours building everything. So you get a better result, really.
Yeah. Well, I think that's it. Like to cut your productivity in half a little bit, there's nothing wrong with that. I think that's just smart. It's in the world we live in, especially with the state of urgency that, everybody has for everything. They usually want it done yesterday. They want it done for this amount of money. So now you can be a little bit more flexible because you're able to produce a clean result, at least a foundational result, much, much quicker. So I encourage that. I just think that's efficient. But, when we kind of get into replacing yourself or your kind of the whole project with something like that, it's like, I don't like that.
Man, I got a direction. I don't know if this is the right direction to go with part of this. I'll keep names out of it. One of my buddies has a product in a specific marketplace, large ecosystem for MarTech, and essentially just created a product that's going to replace their entire business. But in doing so, it's also going to replace nearly everyone in this ecosystem. It works. Okay. It's like they have evidence. And so the ecosystem's probably going to say, no, you can't launch this because it's going to kill everything happening here. And so it's very interesting that like that can happen today.
But I mean, at the end of the day too, I think there's going to come, like with anything, there's going to be a certain level of fatigue that people will go through. And I think that that's ultimately what I'm kind of waiting to see. There are people that are just being, pushed out, that are being overlooked, that are maybe not even being considered because everyone's so confident in what we can replace with AI or, machine learning or whatever that is. But I'm waiting for this surge to kind of pop, whether it's because of pricing, whether it's because of accessibility, whether it becomes too diluted, whatever that looks like. But I mean, it's just natural part of just like evolution as humans. Like these things happen. It sucks. But I still think there's a place for people who have, kind of like a unique perspective on whatever it is that they're building. I think that's ultimately what people will start paying a lot more for is that that nuanced kind of intellectual property versus like someone just building with their hands.
Yeah. So I guess how do I frame this question? To demonstrate that nuanced thinking, that criticalness that says I am worth you paying me. How does an agency get that out there?
Yeah, well, I think right now, like I notice a lot of agencies that are more generalists. I think in a generalist position, you're not looking for something that's super nuanced. If that's just like a quick tweak on a website, if that's, a basic marketing plan or strategy for a new brand, those things are pretty table stakes at this point. But what I'm seeing is like when you have brands, big brands that everybody knows and loves that are going through a rebranding process or that are trying to reinvent themselves, it's like that niche or that specialization is going to be something that will clearly separate you from everybody else. And if you've got a track record to prove it, this is the creative strategy that we came up with. This is how we did it. This is the result we produced. People will pay triple, quadruple for that versus like, here's a bare bones basic website that will allow you to at least start transacting for the first time online,
Right. So I guess where do you see the future of the space so like right now, anyone with a laptop can become an agency, right? Guys are sitting in their mom's basement right now, hammering away at some website. But
I work with some of them.
Most of them are not like they haven't achieved the skill level to be able to do all of the things on their own, but they have AI in their hands now. And so a lot of that nuanced thought is something they're never actually going to achieve because they're relying on a tool. And so for the industry as a whole, what does that mean? The bigger players just keep getting bigger or?
Well, I mean, I feel like it's already kind of like that, to be honest with you. So it's like a lot of bigger agencies can rely on their logos because they have a track record, they have a reputation. But to cut through that noise now is going to be significantly more difficult because everybody, to your point, with a laptop can build an agency or even build a website at this point. People can build apps with things like Lovable. So it's like, what really are you buying from the agency? What really is the agency giving you that you can't do on your own at this point? So yes, I do think that big companies will continue to maintain that reputation, but only as much as the tools don't allow you to become a differentiator. So it's like there's going to be an overlap or kind of like a curve where I think these things will intersect. But I also don't think there's anything wrong with being a generalist. There are people who just want that basic website. There are people who just want to be able to build something in half the time. So knowing what it is that you specialize in and clearly defining what that positioning is ultimately going to be what separates you from the rest, right? If you can flat out say, yeah, we use AI to build websites in less than 24 hours, that's valuable to a lot of people.
Right.
But I think the transparency, the honesty, and the integrity is ultimately what I think most good businesses are built on.
Yeah. As a positioning coach for agencies, I can agree with that.
Oh, there you go.
And speaking of our own jobs, give me a few lines on Rebuy, and we can start getting into like partnerships, stuff like that.
Yeah. So just for context, so I was at Shopify for about 4 years. I'm a business owner myself. So, working as a hairdresser, was trying to scale my own kind of online booking process, discovered Shopify, immediately became obsessed working with brands or just humans really that bet on themselves and went all in. Decided after 4 years to want to spread my wings. This was just during COVID. I was selling point of sale hardware and software to businesses that were closed. It felt a little bit invasive to me. So, explored my options. I joined Rebuy. So Rebuy in and of itself kind of hijacks the entire online experience from homepage to post-purchase through personalization. So recommended cross-sells, upsells that take into consideration your customers' behavior, how they discovered your online store in the first place. And essentially we're able to sell the right products at the right time. So we do use a bit of an AI engine that basically aggregates all of your store data to make sure that if they're looking at this product, chances are they're going to want to buy this product with it. So I said, like, what we replace is traditionally with Shopify, you're showing the same products or collections to every single customer that walks through your store. I equate that to holding up a shoe in a shoe store and hoping that it fits everybody that comes through the door.
Right.
That's the case. So what we're able to do is hyper personalize that based off of things like previous purchase history, UTM traffic, geolocation, so that, we're not showing bathing suits to people in Toronto in the middle of December. So, yeah.
Right. Awesome. And so, do you guys mainly partner with like web design agencies that are building on Shopify, content agencies? Who's the ideal audience here?
Yeah, I mean, any agency that's working with a brand that has a website, there's people that will only do, let's say, performance marketing. But it's like, okay, great. If the performance marketing strategy is working, what is actually happening when they get to the online store? So there are ways where people can still continue to focus on what it is they specialize in while still continuing to add more value through tools like Rebuy. I mean, we've seen it for years with agencies that build and manage Klaviyo for their brands. I'm noticing that personalization now is becoming a huge differentiator in terms of how do we retain the traffic that we're at least getting to the website. And personalization is a big one on how they're doing that. So it's not a one size, or it's not a one size fits all. And it's also not a one and done solution. I think, as seasons change, as certain pinnacle events throughout the year come up, so does a marketing calendar for a brand, so to speak. So we're able to work alongside brands and the agencies that build for them to make sure that regardless of the time of year, their website still looks relevant to every single person that passes through, not just one cohort.
Right. I think it's interesting too, because I imagine the data that you can equip an ad agency with by seeing hey, for someone comes to the site, these are the other products that they're most likely to purchase. We can now retarget ads with that, get them pulled in. Maybe we even take that initial ad and we show multiple products because they're all related in some way. And now we're really hooking this person. It's like a multi-level kind of partnership here where it's not just like you do this, I'll do this. It's like we can actually truly benefit from having each other.
The value is incremental for sure. And I think, again, when we talk about brands, what they're looking to accomplish, it's like going to a doctor and diagnosing yourself. Half the time they know what they want, but they don't know why they need it or why that specific thing. So I think with what we're able to do is, if they're looking to, let's say, cut down their tech stack by 20, 30%, okay, well, uninstall all of these apps, install Rebuy. Boom, we've done that almost overnight. So it's like the speed at which you're able to solve for a lot of these common issues while identifying or poking holes in other parts of that business strategy. All of a sudden, with Rebuy at the helm, you then have data to be able to back it up. You've got performance metrics, you've got reports at the widget level. So without having to use something like heat maps or anything like that. You can now basically see where products are being added in during the customer journey, which products are performing the best, which ones are not performing at all, and you can leverage that in your merchandising strategy rather than having to speculate or do more generalized broad reports. You can actually see which pages are performing the best and kind of carry that through the rest of the website. And for agencies, you can then take this data and leverage it for every other merchant in that same vertical. We tried this with this brand. We know this works. So we can almost take some of that foundational best practice strategy and create frameworks around it that work, right? Without having to give away the IP of XYZ brand, you can start to pick up on trends and which tools are going to create the biggest results, the lowest lift, vertical to vertical.
So everyone claims to be data driven. As you see, it's one of the terms. I just did a presentation this week for a group, and I looked up the 3 most frequently used terms on agency websites, and it's like we're growth oriented. It's like one of them, like growth driven, data driven is another one. We have a great team. Okay. It's like all the things. But anyways, right. But with data driven, so it's you guys truly are data driven. Like you are looking at the numbers here. When I'm creating marketing campaigns with my clients, we are looking at the data. Like we're building a hypothesis that says we believe if we do X, we're going to achieve Y. Here's how we know it. We've collected all this data, and these are the gates we need to hit in order to see if this works. How much of a struggle is it to get like partners to see and use that data in their marketing and with their clients? Like it sounds great up front, right? But
yeah, I think it's just a matter of kind of normalizing it. So, when it comes to our partner program, this is kind of where I'm able to bridge that gap for them. I don't expect them to become experts or see things the way that I'm able to, given the fact that I've worked with thousands of brands and hundreds of agencies. But I think that a good partnership shouldn't require you to do that. So for me, it's about getting on a call, walking them through the data so that they can start to see it through a lens that I see it through. And then at that point, they'll start choosing that data first, oftentimes, because, again, when you've got a bloated tech stack, you've got information that lives across 8 different dashboards and Shopify, maybe even Triple Whale, and it becomes a little bit convoluted. So when we can just create one report that shows you the entire store's performance from homepage right to post-purchase, and even into like your Klaviyo integrations, it'll just become the obvious choice for that first-party data and customer behavior like analysis, so to speak.
Yeah, so I have my methodology is briefly, there's 11 different levers that you can pull on for differentiation. And we want to stack as many of those as we can. Because gone are the days of being like, we're the only ones who work with this industry. It's like, no, it's not there.
I love those claims. They still happen, but yeah, it's pretty funny.
So, like delivery models, another one. We're the only agency that does this. And it's like, yeah, but now if it does work, right, someone's going to copy it tomorrow and now you're not. So anyways,
we create the most beautiful websites on the internet. I'm like, have you seen every website on the internet? Like, how can you? It's a moot point.
100%. But so instead, we find the ones where we're towards the top of the pack, like we're doing really well, and then we stack them so that now it's actually something hard to copy. What you're essentially equipping agencies with is like one of the levers that I use, methodology and IP. If you have some data, proprietary data that you can use that others can't. It is an advantage, that a reason people would want to work with you. And so if I can start working with a client, show them all of their data quickly and say like, look, these are all the numbers. This is what we're making decisions on. It lets you make decisions faster, lets us help you make decisions faster. Like that's a huge competitive advantage right now.
Well, and it also gives them another reason to justify paying you. I think, again, when we go back to the claims that we're making or what it is that we're actually still offering to brands, I think being able to specify the outcome is huge versus the breadth of what you're capable of. Well, we can do everything. Okay, well, so can this agency and so can this agency. But the more you can drill down on what we're going to do and how we're going to do it, leveraging the data points that you have available to you, the more they're going to be like, okay, well, what else can you do? Like they'll start to trust you. And once you've built that trust, you've got them for life. I mean, most brands, I think it's, especially kind of in the capacity with some of the agencies that I work with, everybody wants these huge logos. Everybody wants the, Kylie Cosmetics to be able to add it to their website. But I'm like, wouldn't you rather be the agency that took X brand into that kind of status because of your strategy? So I think, at the end game for like, what is the goal of your agency at this point? People who are starting agencies just to try and make a quick buck, it's like, no. and also people that are, unable to differentiate or position themselves, and generalists that are undercutting kind of the average market value. It's like, I feel like you'll burn out quite quickly with that. It's not scalable. So yeah, being very specific. And I think that data is obviously the best way to control that outcome.
Yeah. I mean, if you can quantify everything you're doing, like all of the things you're trying to qualify, if you can also quantify them, like,
exactly.
Yeah, it's an edge. So let's look 5 years out. What agency skills do you think are still untouchable?
Yeah, I think the ability to earn trust. Like, I really do think that because, AI tools and stuff like that are going to be kind of like household accessible things in whatever capacity the average person is using them. I think there's never going to stop somebody from doing a first pass on their own. And if they see something that was generated for free in a consultation with the agency, you're going to have to work a lot harder to build that trust. So yeah, I think, persuasion is also going to be something that a lot of people are going to be ready for. They're going to say, what questions should I be prepared for? Or what things is this agency going to, try and kind of sell to me? And what things should I look out for? So I think that a lot of people are doing way more due diligence and have access to way more of that type of information. So trust is going to be the biggest currency. And yeah, I think that's going to be the first thing. If you can't build that, it's going to be a downhill battle for sure.
Yeah. I liked, have you read the book, The Experience Economy?
No.
So definitely worth a read. But they make a pretty good argument about, there was once the oil economy was like really big. If you own the oil, like you were the one who was going to succeed. And then if you moved into the data economy, if you were the one who controlled all the data, you're the winner. And then they're arguing that we're moving into the experience economy. This was years ago, so probably moving out of it at some point. But I really do think there is a trust economy here, where it's like the person who owns the trust is the one who is going to command the most business, even if it's you pointing them to other businesses, right? Like.
Yeah, I mean, my favorite thing to tell people is no, honestly. Like, there's instances where, depending on the complexity of what somebody's looking to accomplish, maybe Rebuy isn't the best tool for that. Or if they're looking for specific data points, I'm not going to bullshit them through, no, because at that point, everything I say, they're going to have to fact check. And like, at that point, you're wasting time and money. So I think, for me, if it's a no, sometimes that's the best answer. And to get there quickly is even better.
Yeah. Oh man. I just met with I'll keep all of these vague. I hate mentioning brands when I'm saying anything negative. So, but it was someone who's in competition with a different company that I'm partnered with. And I let them know before meeting with me, like, I'm interested in hearing you out, but like, I am partnered with these guys, and their entire like positioning pitch was like, we're better than everyone else. And it's like, okay, but every feature you've brought up to me is actually, they can actually do it. And things you've actually told me they can't do, I know they can because I'm using it and like I see it. So like, how is that different? But like, I lost a lot of trust in that conversation because it's like, it's obvious you're just trying to get me in here.
Yeah. Well, I love the sponsored like links on Google when you Google like Rebuy, for example, and another company will come up saying like better than Rebuy. It's like, I just feel like that's so cheap. You know what I mean? It's like, if you truly are, it's like, you shouldn't have to tell me how good you are. It should just show for itself. So I really think again, like these like you lose a bit of like credibility. I find when you have to undercut people or solutions in order to make yourself look better. I feel that's just human nature. But again, I think the right companies won't have to do that, and they'll attract the right people, which it won't be a numbers game. It'll be a longevity game. And I think for any brand or agency, that's the ultimate goal. It's like in a world where everybody is an agent, an agency, to your point, it's becoming pretty diluted. So I think that, volume, there's enough volume to go around, but how long are you actually keeping those clients? How much are you going to have to continue to replace clients month over month over month? Or if you find, let's say 20 to 30 that you can retain for 10 years, like I'd much rather the second option.
Right. Yeah. 100%. I think there's something to making the claims like we're better, where it's like, if I call myself generous, nobody's believing I'm generous. But if they see me donating and being with charities and like all of these things, like then my actions have now spoken and it makes sense. Like, so yeah, someone bidding on that keyword to say like, we're better than them. It's like, I don't trust that, but I'm going to click on it just to charge you for the click.
Well, that's it. Oh, dude, oh my God, the number of times that I've done that. But I know to kind of like to circle this all the way back, it's like I think the agencies that are going to win are the agencies that understand what it is that they do, and they know how to get there consistently every time without having to cut corners. I mean, in the right ways, right? If you can cut corners in the right ways so that you have more capacity for the intellectual property, for that critical thinking, for that creative strategy, I think that's worth its weight in gold. Even if it takes you a little bit longer to get to the end result, I think that, we'll get to a point where the quickest answer isn't always the best answer. And I think I'm ready for that to kind of become the reality again.
Cheers. Okay. As we wind down here, I got 2 more questions for you. First one being, what book do you recommend every agency owner should read?
Well, I mean, this is not necessarily an e-commerce specific book, but it's called Authentic. And it's a memoir by the founder of Vans, like the shoe company. It is such an incredible story about how like such a simple shoe through branding and authenticity really becomes your ultimate business strategy. So I highly recommend anybody that's trying to differentiate themselves or stay authentic to read the book Authentic by the Paul Van Doren is his name.
Awesome. Yeah, it's the first time that book's been recommended. Awesome.
I was actually recommended to me by a colleague, one of the I think founders, CEO of Barrel, an agency based in New York City. Mm-hmm. Speaking of, more niche down agencies, they specifically only do CPG brands, and they do it really, really, really well. So if you want an example of what it looks like to really find your niche and run with it, definitely check out Barrel based in New York City. And shout out to them.
Awesome. The last question is, where can people find you?
Well, they could find me in Sydney, Australia currently, but on LinkedIn, Rich Matukaitis, Rebuy's partner page. If you're ever curious to know what partnering with Rebuy looks like, please feel free to reach out to myself. Happy to jump on a call. But yeah, LinkedIn is probably the easiest way.
Awesome. Well, Rich, thanks for joining.
Thanks for having me.
That's the show, everyone. You can leave a rating and review, or you can do something that benefits you. Click the link in the show notes to subscribe to Agency Forward on Substack. You'll get weekly content, resources, and links from around the internet to help you drive your agency forward.